continue to discuss about meditation. Okay, let me scroll down here. Let's see here. So last time we discussed about let's see here, breath meditation, and so I want to discuss briefly today about standing meditation, walking meditation, and even body scan. So so he talked today.
We were asking about it. Yeah.
So next time we have the part here. You welcome to lie down to dress yourself whichever way. So in our meditation practice, so we don't limit ourselves with breath meditation alone, because this can be applied in any circumstances, whether we are walking, standing, lying down, any times. As much as we are mindful of what we're doing, that's count. So when we talk about let's say after we sitting for a while, let's say 45 minutes and an hour, our body will be tired, right? Stiffen, right? So that's why we need to do the walking, the standing, whichever way. Even oh, sorry. Even we if we tired, we can take a nap. Doesn't matter. So as much as we have much energy, we have awareness of what we're doing. That count. If we force ourselves too much, for example, if we sit too long, sometimes it's be tired and we get stuck there. We have to be flexible with things that we do the practice. So uh, uh, last time you were here, so how could you do walking meditation then? Can you share how?
Walking meditation, by counting the breath. And you said just go your regular pace, right?
What is that?
You said go your regular pace and just count the breaths.
Okay. How about you, Thân Thiện? When you were here, how did you do walking meditation, Thân Thiện?
Mô Phật thầy, the way I walk, so when I walk with my feet, so when I walk, each step that I walk, and I'm mindful of what I'm feeling on my soul, like the bottom of my feet. It's whether it's feeling warm or hot or cold. So I just need to be mindful of what I'm feeling instead of making a judgment. So I just keep walking, and so I just walk around the building, and so I just walk and I pass someone. I try my best not to make any judgment. So when I pass someone, I just know that they are there, and that's how I practice Thich.
How about William? You walk around your building during the break, or any times that you have free times?
You know, I have occasionally done some walking meditation in my office, but not as a regular thing.
Phillips, do you know what's been walking meditation? Have you ever done that before?
I think I did it a few times. Like I kind of like swing my arms I'm not sure if that's the walking meditation we're referring to, but it's like a coordinated swinging of arm.
Mm-hmm. How did you walk in meditation?
Usually, when I'm at home, just going from room to room, I'll try to move very slowly and focus on texture on the ground. And I think of each step as purposeful.
So what's different between sitting and walking meditation then? Any difference?
The movement sometimes relaxes me more.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be high energy,
So do you need to focus on your breath?
I do.
But can you focus on your breath while you walking easier than sitting?
No.
Why not?
I guess my lungs aren't used to it yet.
It's common. This is common. You understand that? What's the difference then? While you sitting, you could concentrate well on your breath, right?
Right.
But while you're walking, can you concentrate your breath
No,
too?
there's too many other distractions. You're sitting, your eyes closed, so you're not seeing anything else.
That's the point. That's what I want to say. So don't worry. So here this point. So when we do the sitting, how about Alan? What's the difference then?
Maybe when you're sitting, you have more focus to focus on your breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're sitting there, you have more times and have more energy to focus on your breath. Then you are walking. When you're standing, when you have some activities. So that's what we have mindfulness is about. So when you sit still, it's easy for you to focus on your breath. That can sharpen our mind with one tense in concentration. That's in the breath. Makes sense? But when you walk in, when you stand up, walking, or do some kind of activities that change completely. That's why mindfulness kick in. That means yes, because all kind of things involved while you're walking, right? Your body, your legs, your arms swinging, your necks, your shoulders, and of course your breath too. That means you would not focus your mind on the breath easily, right? Because of those kind of movements within your body. And plus on the top of that, when you're walking around, you see something's there in the rooms, the window, the doors, people, and so forth. This all kind, you can say, distraction. But still, the point is that when you do the mindfulness, yes, if you really focus on, let's say, start with standing. From sitting, we change to standing. It's much easy, right? That means when we stand, we still have that kind of stillness, like the sitting, but in different position, right? We instead of put our legs on the floor, now we stand up, and all the weight is down on 2 feet. And at that moment, you just pay attention on the weight of your feet, the weight of your body on your feet. And of course, you can focus or be mindful. Actually, that's the right term. Be mindful of the energy that flows into your body, the weight, the sensation, and so forth. So when you start to walk, that's different position. That means your body will move, right? Your arms will swing, right? Will swing back and forth, and your legs will change alternately from the left legs to right leg and right leg to left legs. So depend. So you may be mindful of every step that you walk. When you put your left foot down, you know. When you lift up and put the right foot down, you know. You be mindful. It's quite different from concentration. Make sense now? Right? Philip, you follow? Right? So again, and if you focus on your step, left foot, right foot, and up that, you can be mindful of your arms, how it swing back and forth. right? Whether it's left arms or right arms. So it's up to you. It's up to you. And later on, you can move your mind. I mean that be mindful of how your shoulder move along with your step, and how your neck move along with your step. Make sense now? It's not concentration anymore, but be mindful. And how you are mindful with the air, even come in and out of your body. It's quite different from why you sitting there. You understand that? Or the combination of walking and swinging the arms, if you pay attention enough. Otherwise, be confusion, right? You get the point now? Okay, so that's what mindfulness is about being mindful of everything that you're doing. So if you can train yourself up in that way, let's say while you're cooking, you know, when you hold the spoon, you know that you hold the spoon. When you turn on the oven, you know to turn on the oven. When you turn on the faucets to let the water to rinse your bowl and so forth, you know. Instead of doing this and that, and you don't know what you're doing. And so it means whenever you do things, you be mindful. You are mindful of that. That's the training. That's different from concentration while you sit there. You get concentrate on the breath alone. We don't pay attention on whatever things happening, whether people talking, whether the sound of cars racing and so forth. We don't pay attention on those things. We pay attention on the breath. We concentrate on our breath. That is concentration. But when we stand up, when let's say while you're driving, when you take the turn, you know, or when you're eating, you know the taste of every spoon you put into your mouth. Instead of put the spoon of food in the mouth and watching movie, that's different story. You see that? Okay, so that's what mindfulness is about. Be mindful of things we are doing. So William, what do you think? Have you ever encouraged your patient to do those things? To be mindful of their body when they are in pain?
Yes. Yes, certainly.
So if they're so painful around the body, the shoulders, legs, and so forth, how could you help them to be mindful at the same time to let go of those attachments?
Mostly I will, my first step is I have a manual treatment I do, osteopathy, and work to help them so they're not dealing with pain. It's very hard when people are in pain for them to begin a new practice. So I try to get them out of pain. I'll use some herbs as well. But for people who can't get out of pain, the only option is to change the relationship to the pain, where they don't resist it. They're aware of it, and they could take periods where if they're doing a sort of meditation where they like focus on their breath, but then also are aware of the pain, and like find their breathing in the center of the pain, as if they're breathing in and out from that point, and see if they can just get to the point where they're coexisting with it. It's not something they have to react to. And then, in the rest of their day to just acknowledge, be mindful and acknowledge the automatic reactions that come up to it, rather than expecting that they're going to use a technique that's going to prevent them from resisting the pain. When they're not focused, like in a meditation, but they're going throughout their day, to be mindful of stories that make the pain worse. So when they start getting into some story about their pain and about the future, and that like starts to drag them down, and to like come back to what's happening, like what is, as opposed to, you know, what they think about is going to happen.
Remember the story that I used to share, right? The ladies who has problem with her ankles. She twists her ankles. Remember I told you that story? And when she saw the doctor, she expected the doctor would help her to get it off that hand. But when she got home, the pain still there. So she was more angry because she paid for the visit and she expect to get healed on the spot. Does that happen usually, William? You encounter that kind of patient too, right?
You know, yeah, the first visit, not everyone is going to get a big improvement. Most people do get a significant improvement, but it's not going to last till the next treatment. Usually, you need a few until the problem will not come back. I don't get people being angry at me though. I think if they are angry, they just won't come back. And I don't get too many of those. I don't get too many people that do a first treatment and then don't come back. Sometimes I'll do 3, maybe 4 tops treatments to try and help them get better. If they're not improving by the 3rd or the 4th one, then I'll try something different. Either I'll refer them somewhere else or we'll use a different approach.
As teacher, how could you be mindful when in the classroom or even online, right? There's all kind of noises from your student. How could you be mindful with them then?
I don't know. I always like to say that teachers have selective hearing. Just kind of focus in on one issue at a time. And try not to get upset.
That's the point. Yeah. Phillips, you deal with your customer directly or you work in the back office?
I'm more in the office, but when I used to work in the pharmacy with customers, people do get angry because they don't like to wait for their prescriptions, or they're upset that they need a prescription and things like that. So I think I kind of see that what William was saying in a way, or what you were saying about the lady. I think, people sometimes misplace frustration because it's not like mindfully in the moment. But I think I understand, because everyone wants to feel no pain and no suffering. So it's okay.
Even when you work in back office, you still interact with some people, right? In that office, right? So
yeah,
they have bad day and they dump everything on you, right?
Yeah, it's true. There's people who are kind of mean, or, not very nice to everyone, and it's hard, but I just kind of pretend I don't hear it and I just move on, because it's just at the end of the day, it's just, just a job and I don't have to see them all the time. But I'm not sure if that's the best way.
I'm Ben. As we're talking about pain and focusing on the body, I have a traumatic brain injury that I obtained in 2013. So some weeks it's good. I don't feel the pain, but this week, like on Tuesday, it just got excruciating. And it really throws my equilibrium off, my balance, and it's just a lot of pain. It causes a lot of confusion. And at my job, I do DoorDash, so it's really hurried. I have to pick up the food, go and bring it to the person's house. And so there's no real, I don't know, I don't really get into a mindful state. It's just like, go, 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 and rush, and watch out for traffic, and watch out for that person. So I don't get to come here as often as I would like, but I do have, where I live in Radcliffe, there's, it's called Saunders Springs. It's a lake. And so I know if I can get out there and just walk the lake and watch it, the ripples. And then there's a bird sanctuary with a bench. I try to walk there and sit and just focus. And I can't explain it all, but it helps. It does. And being here also.
You, Alan, what do you think? When you deal with some people that dump everything on you, how can you handle them?
Well, I guess just had to break down the problem one at a time, make it achievable in small steps.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's why somehow it start with ourselves first. There's no way for us to expect that start from other people. When they're angry, when they have emotions, that's their problems. And if we don't know how to handle our emotions, that's our problems. That's why we got up of this situation. We should start with ourselves. That's why in meditation, we need to start with breath meditation. We sit in meditation first to settle down our mind. If we have the calm mind training, if we have the kind of calmness, so when we stand up, that kind of calmness and stillness we still carry with us. So whichever thing we do, we would stay in that kind of state of mind, stillness and calmness. But if we could not tame our mind, we could not focus our mind enough, whichever we do, we do in the lousy way, in the mindless way. And this is, of course, is a danger too. Right? In every situation, whether we are driving cars, whether we cook the food, right? Whether when we talk and interact with other people, if we're not mindful, we may offend them and so forth. So it's very important. So that's why in the mindfulness practice, the whole practice, when we sit, we stand, we walk, and even lie down. And so we train ourselves physically and mentally to be mindful of things we are doing. So that in our daily activities, it will go with us, with that tune, with that patterns. And at the same time too, if you don't practice anything, we go with the same patterns of being careless, right? Being mindless and so forth. So that's why depend, like you say, if sometimes you sit too long, right? Maybe tired, you can walk around. That's why last time we have here 45 minutes for us to sit, and we spend 10 or 15 minutes to walk around to do some kind of warm up our body. Because when we sit still, somehow the blood circulation is slow, and when we walk in, we change that position. And again, that's the way we train ourselves to be mindful with any activities we have, whether it's in our mind, our body, and so forth. Okay. Yeah. Understand, Phillips? Right. So.
Yeah, I think I've been trying to work on this because I feel like I'm a very forgetful person. I like sometimes forget my phone or my keys, like just very clumsy. So I definitely want to be mindful. And then sometimes I feel like I hit a lot of things with my body, like the doors and things, because I'm just not mindful of where I'm going or what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. It happens. Most of us, sometimes we hold the keys, but we're looking for it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not mindful. So that's why it should start from within ourselves. Yeah. Okay. So that's in would like to talk about, and then that's let me go back here. Any question? Thân Thiên is so it's understandable, Thân Thiên, right?
Yes, hi.
Okay. And how about Thân thiện, how can you explain about body scan? You did that before, Thân thiện. How you do that? How you do body scan?
Yeah, more for so what I learned from you, like when you invited me to the Zoom class with the students, something that I learned from you, something that you laid down with your body, your head touching the floor, your lower body touching the floor, your feet touching the floor, your hand touching the floor, and you start from the top and you observe and mindful what your head is feeling, whether they're hot or cold or pleasant or unpleasant, and you are mindful of what you're feeling on the top of your head, and then you move down to your forehead and you do the same, and you just scan each part of your body from top to the bottom of your feet, and then you start back to the top. Just be aware of what you're feeling, and try not to make any judgment. This is what I learned. More for time.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me that. When we do standing, walking, cooking, whichever, need to be careful, don't judge. You understand that? Why is that? What do you think? Let's put it this way. Let's say while we're walking, right? And somehow people walk past us, and they walk faster or slow, walk behind us. And so it's easy for us to make the judgment, right? And we say, oh, why do they walk too slow? Why do they walk too fast? Why do they walk in front of me? Why do they walk behind me? Do they watch behind me? They watch our shoulder. So for that's kind of judgment. Why is that? Why we're not supposed to have that kind of judgment? Or let go of those kind of judgment. What do you think? Why?
It's a distraction from what you're doing in that moment.
That's the point. We just go with the flow. Right? It's easy or it's hard for William? It's for you to guide your patient to be like you mentioned, to be mindful of their pain. Is it easy, or sometimes they have that problems to pay attention to the pain without any judgment, only complaint? That's me.
I think that it's easy to understand when it's explained, but the hard part is that there's so much other stuff in that person's life and mind, and there's so many other things going on that it gets kind of lost in the mix. So they really need to be reminded of it regularly in order for it to really take root. So I would say, yeah, easy to understand, but to put into practice, it takes a lot more than it does to understand why you'd want to put it into practice.
Mm-hmm. So when you're walking, you understand that we walk without any judgment. It's understandable. It's easy.
Sure.
It's easy. Why not?
Well, just because there's so much out there. I mean, you're seeing so much stuff, so it's very hard not to have judgment on what's going on, what you're doing, like you said, how fast you're going, or how slow you're doing, or you forgot to breathe and not show yourself compassion like you should. And that would be the same with cooking or anything else. or doing dishes, oh, I didn't clean that one good enough, and then you start harping on yourself, which you need to show more compassion for what you're doing.
So it's like building habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get used to that habit to judge either our body, our mind, or whoever is around us, right? So how could we let go of that type of judgment? Phillips, what do you think? Is it easy to let go? Let's say where you was working in the back office, there's someone working and somehow they have some weird behavior and so forth. They was angry because of something. So how could we stay away from any kind of judgment toward that person before we talk about that person, before we talk with that person to find out what's going on with their life? What do you think?
I think sometimes I try to take a step back and see other factors that may be affecting that person. Like all the other things that might go into why they're behaving in that way, or their past behavior, or like their past, or how other people treat them, or just just try to take a step back and see other things that might be affecting them, so I don't take it so personally, as in like, oh, this is the only factor of what's going on, that there's other variables.
Yeah, you made one important point is don't take things as personal, right? Let's say if your supervisor, even co-workers and whoever, step into the room and yell at you because you made some mistake, for example. Of course, instantly when we heard that type of criticism or yelled, we react right away. We're so angry, right? But probably because, let's say, your manager, supervisor, or principal yell at you or give you bad comment and negative comments, probably because of something happening there, not because of you. Makes sense? Right? Is that right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's not easy to break out. It's not easy to recognize at that spot, right?
Well, and the thing is too, when you judge someone else, you're never going to get it right. So why bother? You're wasting your energy.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to look at it: is don't give it any energy. Keep that for yourself. And then the other day, I went to the coffee shop, and the kid working in there, he had a name tag, and it said, "Be patient with me. I'm in training." And so I saw it, I thought, oh, that's a really cool name tag. And I was laughing with him. He said, yeah, it's my first day. And they gave it to me, so I just put it on. I said, but I feel like I need this one for life. And so that's kind of my new thing now. When anybody says anything that bothers me, I'm just like, okay, be patient with them. They're in training. And the same thing with myself. If I do something, like, be patient with yourself. You're in training. Like, it's okay. Cut off the energy flow to it. Don't, because if you don't, then you'll just harp on it more and more, and you're wasting your energy away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think too that when we judge, that comes from a very basic part of our survival instinct, and somehow we have to transcend that. We have to realize this is a survival mechanism.
Yeah. So that's why without sitting meditation, it's not easy to be mindful of those things. So remember, we start with the breath. We train our mind that we don't judge any about breath, whether it's long or short. You see that? Deep or shallow. We don't mention a judgment. We just follow with the breath in and out in natural way. And we, of course, in order to be mindful, in order to keep up with our counting, most of the time we count. We can focus on the counting. Whether we have many number, for example, within 1 minute or 2 minutes, we may have, let's say 10, 20, doesn't matter. We can accept that. So that's why we start to reverse the pattern, the judgmental patterns that we have sin, birth or sin in Buddhist view, sin limit past life, by observing the breath in natural way. So that when we stand up and encounter or interact with other people, we keep up with that kind of patterns, non-judgmental patterns, much easier. Otherwise, there's no way. What do you think, William? Is it easy to remind ourselves when we deal with other people, or we should start with our meditation? What do you think?
I think it probably depends on how intense the charge is for whatever the situation is. If we can really be present enough in the moment to go like to not have gotten into a reaction, disengaging through meditation I mean, has always helped me the most, because if I'm in a mind state that's kind of like contracted in on seeing something being like someone else really did something wrong, it's like if I try to think my way out of it, it's using that same mind state. I'll just go in circles a lot. I have to like let go of it first. And then I can contemplate more easily if I'm really locked in, and then I can see it from a different perspective. But I think it's probably, I don't know. I find it especially difficult to apply this approach to I have this kind of this situation where in a relationship, so with my fiance, and in applying this approach, there are the teachings for the Bodhisattva way, which most of the Bodhisattvas don't even enter into a relationship where they have kids. I mean, sex is they take a precept not to engage in any sort of sex. But then there are these radical teachings about like surrendering any concern for fairness, or if someone comes to you saying something where they're accusing you of having some sort of fault or anything like that, generally, of course, a bodhisattva would accept that, offer no resistance, offer no information to the contrary, but remain peaceful and be like, oh, okay, all right. But it's like, it doesn't seem like that works in a relationship, because then in a relationship, if someone doesn't communicate why something is an issue, then that thing keeps happening, and it like other things can happen as well in addition to that, until there's a point where there's just like they've multiplied these things, and so there's a constant need for being very mindful to not react. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like it seems that there's some sort of middle way in the practice around like being purely accepting and witnessing and aware, but also communicating when something just isn't sustainable long term. If like one person is always doing something in the relationship and it's not kind of balanced. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very challenging. Yeah, when you have to deal with all kind of problems out there, right? With business, with relationship, and so forth. And of course, ideally, the advise us, yes, if you want to have the simple life to reduce all kind of responsibilities, yeah, you can be monks and nuns. It's more simple. Yeah, but once you out there, it's a bit complicated. And you have to deal with all kind of problems, all kind of people, all kind of relationship. and so forth. But of course, it's more challenging too. So without the practice of meditation, you be ripped away by those problems and issues, and sometimes you get lost too. So it takes time to build up the skill of mindfulness practice. And in meantime, you need to understand the concept of letting go, and you have to let go from your own mind. So let's go back. What I want to mention is that again, without sitting meditation, without that kind of practice, not easy. When you stand up and deal with other people, it's just easy to be distracted. It's easy to get lost in the midst of conversation, in the midst of arguments, in the midst of even fighting, right? In lives. But it can be manageable if you have some kind of samadhi or concentration. And I know many lay people, even they so busy, but they have that kind of skillful ways of dealing with those things because they have certain type of concentration. Like your teachers, right? You stand in front of 40, 50 students, right? And because of your concentration, you know what's happened to your student. You will not be moved by them, be swayed by them, and when they complain, oh, you're not fair. It's happened, right?
Oh, many.
How can you do those kind of fairness or complaint? What do you think? When you're mindful, how to be mindful of that?
Really have to use the senses with all the students at one time. It's very difficult sometimes to monitor everyone in the class, but you have to understand why Johnny in the corner is being hyper or disruptive, and you try not to make a judgment, but you try to find the cause. Well, is it because this guy's poking him, or because he didn't eat last night? So you have to keep all these variables going at one time. And once you do that, it is a kind of concentration. It is a focus.
Yeah, at that time you have to have that kind of mindfulness. You couldn't concentrate on one student, right? Anyway, so that's what we need to have. The training when we sit in, the training when we walk in, while we stand in, while we land down too. So as much as we're mindful, we would recognize things what we're doing. Otherwise, we get lost. Otherwise, it's easy for us to do things that we read later, right? That's a big point. And the next things the Buddha teaches that we need to be mindful with our emotion. Now, I think we discussed before. Can we be mindful with our emotion without be mindful of our body, our sensation, our breath? Can we? What do you think, William? Can we be mindful without feeling? Good feeling, bad feeling? Let's say the feeling of consuming a piece of ice cream, or the feeling that people show their love to us, and so forth. Can we be mindful without, be mindful of those feelings without be mindful of our body? Can we do that? What do you think?
In general, I would say no, because if we're developing mindfulness and when we're cultivating it, we're usually doing that in a neutral situation where there's not a lot going on to induce different feelings. So we're getting used to being mindful of the physical sensation in our body, of the breath, of where we are in space, what thoughts are going through our head. So to just be mindful of feeling, it's like emotion feeling, because it's so tied into the physical body. Usually if we feel something, we also feel it somewhere in our body. So I would say no. I mean, I think there's just these blurry margins between our physical body, our emotions, and our thoughts, where like we can see it. If we feel really happy, you see it in someone's body, in their appearance, in their posture. If someone's very sad, you see it showing up, or they feel defeated, you see it showing up in their appearance and posture. So no, I don't think we can simply be mindful of emotions alone.
Yeah, definitely. You feel that? You understand? You follow that?
I follow that, but I don't know that I agree. I think I don't agree with it though.
You don't agree?
No.
Why?
Well, I think the more I agree with like most people probably, but the more mindful you become, the more likely you are to be able to be mindful of the feelings and see them for what they are. So you'll know when you're happy is easy, sad is easy too. You know you're happy or you know you're sad. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell your different feelings, but they flow so fast sometimes you can't, and that's when you have problems because you're just going to be overwhelmed with everything. But you can tell the difference. Even my son, like the other day, he was playing a game on the computer and he was making music, and I was in another room. He said, "That's my sad music, Mom. See, I feel sad, so I'm playing sad music." And then a few minutes later, he's like, "That's my happy music." I said, "Well, you see how fast your feelings change? It's just for a moment that you were sad and you went right to happy." So even, the kids, when you're mindful of it, you can definitely tell the difference, I think. But most people just aren't. They're just so used to trying to get everything done, they don't stop. And with the breath too, if you're concentrating on your breath, it helps slow you down to give you that extra moment before you react to something, to feel the feeling, and know that you're about to react, to stop.
Okay. So what do you think? Is there connection there? The body, the mind, the feeling?
Definitely. The mind affects the body, and the body affects the mind.
And the feeling? How about the feeling?
And definitely the feeling. When you have a very strong emotion, you tend to always want to initially feel it, like in your gut. But if you're mindful, maybe, like Tammy was saying, if you practice mindfulness, that initial reaction may not be as bad or noticeable.
Yeah. So everything connected, right? Body, the breath, the mind, the feeling, the sensation, they connect each other. And as much as we are mindful with our breath, we're mindful with our body. And definitely, eventually, we can be mindful with our feeling and even our own thought. That's what the Buddha talked about, the four foundations of mindfulness. The first one is the body. Be mindful with the body. Second one, be mindful with this feeling. The third is be mindful with our own mind. And the last one, be mindful with the Dharma. Everything is surrounding us, in and out. That's a step. And they connect with each other. And if we cannot be mindful with our body, there's no way for us to be mindful with our own mind. There's no way. You recognize that? Right? So it's not going step by step, but it's like things should be settled down bit by bit before we see things underneath of the waters. You know what I mean? So when we have the muddy water, so it needs time to settle down, and gradually we see the clearness of the waters. We follow Phillips?
Yeah, I definitely see the mind body feeling connection. Sometimes if I change what my body's doing, sometimes my feeling also changes. Like if I'm feeling depressed and I don't move for a long time, then I feel more depressed. But then sometimes if I just even get up to like move my body a little bit, I think I feel more energetic. So I think there is definitely a connection that I feel. Yeah, it makes it feel more in control, I guess. So I guess you can always try to be mindful of your breath or body, and then slowly sometimes that affects your thoughts instead of only your thoughts affecting your body.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what, whether it's be mindful bodies, sensation, feeling, even the thought, we need to be careful about the judgment. We need to let go. We can accept the way it is, like the way we accept our breath. That's our training. And I just mentioned recently, if we accept whichever thing happening in our body, especially start with our breath, we will accept our sensation. Whether we have good sensation or strong emotion, we accept that. And later on, if we go deeper, if we recognize the thought, let's say, oh, I'm angry because of that guy and that girl and so forth. Yes, we recognize and accept that. Not to fight, not to run away. That's the problems that we're dealing with. When we fight, definitely it's stressful. When we run away, we have the fear. We just accept, oh, we have the anger there. We have a good emotion there. We have strong emotion there. But it's not easy to accept that. It's not easy to recognize without any kind of judgment until we train our mind to be mindful or to be acceptant with our own breath. That's why the bottom line is there. Without that practice, for me, personally, there's no way. There's no way for us to let go of those. There's no way for us to stand in the middle ground, to have the non-judgmental standing in any circumstances. So we need to balance our mind first. We need to have that kind of concentration, a foundation. What do you think, William?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That resonates with me very strongly. Either fighting or running away, we're stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so no matter what, that's why it's so important for us to do the practice. If we talk along for days and nights and weeks and months, it would not much beneficial. If we don't practice, we don't sit down and focus our mind on the breath, on our sensation, whichever, so that we can accept whichever thing happening to our body, our mentalities. And when we stand up, it's easy for us to accept things going on. Like while we do the walking meditation, yes, we can accept whether we have um, long pace or short pace, whether we swing our arms in different direction or whichever, we just let them move in a natural way. Our shoulders, how we move our shoulder. Otherwise, oh, I concerned that someone who walk behind me may say something about me. That's the problems. Or the way that we move our head and so forth. Just accept. Just be acceptant of things that happen in our body. And eventually it's much easier for us to let go of all kind of fighting, all kind of stresses. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, if we don't accept that, it's not easy.
Because then you go on another tangent. So if you have a judgment and if you don't just observe and you have a judgment, then you're going to go off somewhere else.
Yeah.
And your mind's not staying focused because you're somewhere else already.
Yeah, when you don't accept things, either you fight or run away. And that's where stress comes from. It's simple, right? Beliefs, right? It's understandable, right? And so that's the whole concept there, but it need to recognize through our own practice. Okay, so again, it's not easy if we don't have that kind of mind training, especially when we have strong emotion, when something says something wrong about us, right? Some negative comments about us, right? And not talking about, it's not easy to accept our own anger, our jealousy, right? Even our desire. It's not easy to accept that. It's challenge like thân thiện. right? A bit challenging.
It's really challenging. It takes practice. Yeah, it takes practice until I settle my mind down.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is important. Is go back to the practice. That's why every day, again, we have to do. Not we have to. What we get used of sitting meditation in the morning and evening. We try to balance our mind. We try to accept our own breath, our own sensation, feeling, and so forth. So that when we stand up and interact with other people, we could accept whoever they are. Because we start with ourselves. In my sense, Phillips, is easy or it's hard? What do you think?
I think it makes sense because if I can't even stop judging myself or my breaths or how I'm moving it or in meditation, how can I not judge myself in like normal living situations? And how can I not judge my peers or coworkers or friends if I can't even not judge myself in a meditation? So I think it's a good, it's definitely an important concept, but it's very hard to implement myself. But it sounds easy, but I think it's actually very advanced in practice.
Yeah, it takes times. Yeah, it takes times for you to accept those things through your practice. But you study from the books, you study from the sutra. Whether it's 10 years, 20 years, would not bring much benefit until we sit down and practice. Okay, so let's just stop here today, and next week we skip next week, right? And we come back the week after next week. And please come back here on that night, Friday night, from 10 to 12. We have a team of Landers there.
10 to 12
Happy New Year.
p.m.
You want to join
Happy New Year.
online? We would turn on the Zoom for you to observe online on that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might try to drive out there and then just like get a hotel to stay. We'll see. I'll talk with Lisa and see.
All right, good. All right, thank you. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, more